Okay, admit it. You thought that was a city in India, but it's not. It's Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So I'm meeting a friend, and she's right here, and she doesn't know that this is me yet, so. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
Not bad.
You good?
Yeah.
Sorry to keep you waiting so long.
No, it's fine. I'm catching up.
Oh, awesome. I guess a lot of people who kind of look at my feed, they probably think like, this guy doesn't work. Like,
I
what
still
does he
can't
do?
figure it out. So it's like, you know, like when you're not local, it's like you need to have a day job. So I don't know.
Oh my God! We start the show with a comment like that. I am quite lucky. I do get to travel a lot, and I do get to film a lot and everything like that. I've brought the number of things that I do down to basically 2. One is I have a communications consulting company, and we primarily work with government entities, and we do social media strategy and execution, but also like branding and all that sort of stuff. So that's my background. Right? I used to work in the private sector and then the government sector. I did both of those. Then I came out and I just thought I'll just do that on my own. The other thing that I do is I do a lot of travel filming. So I work with a lot of tourism boards, and we do a lot of filming. 2 things now, which is I think manageable. I was doing like 5, 6 things, and it was very difficult.
It doesn't sound like a job though. That sounds like fun. Like that's what my vacations are about.
Well, that's the whole point. You've been to Turkey before, right?
Yeah, I did. I think 7th grade, when I was 7,
Yeah.
in 2nd grade, they brought us here to do the field trip.
Ah.
So you had to go sketch the wind towers and things like that. But it wasn't this nice before. I think they've done a lot of upgrades.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I called you last week and I said, you know, I'd like to do a part of my vlog which is about the different communities that have made Dubai their home. That's a new part of the vlog that I'm doing, and I'm starting off with the Indian community, and we are heading to an area right now which a lot of people could mistake for India. If for a second you kind of blink, you're like, wait a minute, this could be any city in India, right?
Some days it smells like Bombay.
Oh wow.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's
but
amazing, and that's a great story, because when I went to India, I swear there was this aroma in India which I have not smelled anywhere else. Just amazing. But the significance of Bestakia, when you look at, you know, obviously the communities that have made Dubai their home, this is one of the communities that were the first to move to this area. The Bestekis, the Arab Persians that lived in the south of Iran for some centuries, and they probably came here, I'd say about 150 years ago. So I mean, a lot of people say that the first kind of inhabitants of this part of the Arabian Peninsula was about 200 years ago. The Bestekis came about 150 years ago, and this is where their home was. After the Bestekis, the next people that came were
the Indians.
Correct, and that was about 40 or 50 years after that. So the Indian community has been here almost 110 years now.
Yep.
Which is fantastic.
My dad came here in 67.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when he first got here, so he's seen the transformation too. So yeah, we've been here for a while, and I think his uncle was probably here about 20 or 30 years before that. So personally, this is a city that we've all grown up with and kind of grown from. So we're coming up to the building, or that spot that used to be the building which I first moved to in 1994. And my dad actually came there as well, and my mom, when she first got married in 77, that's the same building she lived in. So it used to be called Sheikh Al Latifa building.
You're kidding me, this building right here?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think I can actually put money on it that every single Sindhi who has come to Dubai has either lived here or been here with like a family relative at some point. So yeah, this brings back memories. When we're really feeling homesick or India sick, I can come down here and get the same vibe.
I know that you kind of do reviews of movies. I know you write about kind of entertainment and all that,
That
sort of
doesn't
stuff.
pay the bills or keep me in Dubai. Well, I'm very fortunate. I get to work for the government of Dubai. So I work in IT.
Nice.
Sometimes doing very glamorous stuff like building apps, etc. And sometimes just doing good old IT systems. So yeah.
So what else do you recognize on this part of town?
Buranmal's still around.
Oh my
It's
God.
been there forever.
One of the classics. I love eating there.
I mean, when you go down this road, this is Mina Bazaar, of course.
Yeah.
For Mina Bazaar.
Yeah.
So a lot of the fabric stores have now been turned into jewelry stores, but you'll still find some places that have been here forever. That's Mother's Supermarket. I'm pretty sure that's been around since like 50s or 60s, and that's the place you go find your Indian flags, cricket team t-shirts, or just random veggies or spices that you want from the motherland. So most of these shops have been here forever, and you can see by the age of some of these buildings, good old unit air conditioners are still chugging away.
I guess one of the things that I always wanted to ask somebody from India, you know, when you look at how large the community is and how many people actually left home and moved here and obviously made this home, is it kind of cool to have a big chunk of the culture here as well? And is that important?
I think so, but I mean, I don't think it's something which is shouldn't be there. I mean, you go to any part of the world, you go to LA, there's like a Koreatown, there's a Chinatown. I mean, we don't call this Little India, but it is essentially that. So, I mean, we might be all now spread across Dubai, but it's kind of nice to come back to that original center. So, yeah.
Super. And I guess for a lot of people, you know, when you first move to a brand new country, then it's even more important, right? Because it's relevant and it's something that you know.
Yeah, and a lot of us, when we first moved here, we had lots of friends and family we already know here. But I think if you're a newbie to Dubai, like tons of people come from every year who don't have any connections. And this, I think, gives them that little connection to Dubai, to back home, kind of bridges that gap. So it's nice, it's familiar.
They show flowers and the puja items also. Flowers coming this India, then Holland flowers, then this festival, Onam, Vishu, then Diwali.
There's a lot of different communities that actually live in Dubai and in the UAE. But what I love is that ever since the Indian community moved over here, they established roots here, which is not the case for a lot of the other communities. I mean, when people came here, they established businesses right away, right?
Yeah. This lane is actually called Cosmos Lane, and that's because that shop's been there since 1953 apparently. So there are certain shops which are still here, certain landmarks are known by their original names and they haven't changed in decades. But I think one thing to, maybe, I don't know if you know this, but this is populated by a lot of Indians, but populated a lot by Sindhis.
This area.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you know Sindhis, right?
I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, give me like the one-liner of
The
who
one-liner.
the Sindhis are, or
boy.
a two-liner.
Well, Sindh is basically a territory in Pakistan. So you'll find Sindhis both in Pakistan and India. I come from India. So if you see anyone's name ending with W-A-N-I, they're most likely Sindhi.
Okay.
And because it kind of, you talked about like putting down your roots. One thing like which the history books have said is that during the partition, Sindhis did not get a state in India. We don't have a designated state. Unlike Maharashtrians or Punjabis, they have states. So we kind of dispersed and fled everywhere, all across India, but we also settled across the globe. So you'll find a ton of them in London, and you'll find a ton of them in Dubai. And basically it goes like that because we weren't given a place to put our roots down. We went across the globe, and wherever we found a spot, we put our roots down, and we put them down strong. So I think this is the result of that.
Do you guys generally, does the community feel like this is kind of, it's home now, right?
Yeah, it's definitely home. I mean, at least for my generation, it's definitely home. I think, like, my parents are sometimes like, yeah, this is not home. I'm like, you've been here longer than you've been, like, you spend more time here than you've lived in India. Like, you don't know anything there. You get confused there. You have to use Uber there. So, and we've also seen the changes over time, like ability to own property, getting more spaces and landmarks. Like we have a Gurdwara now in Jebel Ali. Before we used to just have a temple here. So we've seen that encouragement, and I think like ties have become stronger in the past, like I would say 5-10 years. So of course, if we're welcomed, why wouldn't we consider our home?
I give him all my love.
When I look at the Indian communities that have moved out of India and lived or based themselves in different countries around the world, a lot of them integrate maybe to a higher degree than they've done in the UAE. And one such example, I mean, when you see Indians in France, they speak French. When you see Indians in Germany, they speak German.
Yeah.
A lot of the Indians in the UAE don't speak Arabic.
I don't speak Arabic, and I've been here for 23 years.
Why is that? I mean, what's the reason behind that? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but...
Yeah, I think it's just there's maybe a larger portion of us here, and there's such a proximity to India. Like so many Indian schools. So even it starts from a young age, right? Like you go to the Indian school, you're friends with Indian people, you study Indian language, you start working with those people. It just keeps going from there. And then also it's Dubai. It makes it so easy. You probably have no Hindi more than yeah. Like we see the Arabs, the locals making more of an effort. You see a lot of like the people, the cab drivers speaking Hindi. I think it's the tolerance almost maybe. Like if you go to France and you don't speak French, you're not going to be able to function.
Yeah.
I think over here it's like it's nice enough that I'm not trying to be diplomatic, but you can kind of survive not speaking any English or even Arabic. Like you go to the immigration counter, they'll probably speak to you in Hindi. Like you have those options. So yeah. We've arrived in Textile Lanes. Basically, these look like little random shops with just fabric, etc. But the owners of these are probably like the richest in Dubai, some of the richest in India. So this is old school, like when Dubai was initially a trading hub, bringing in fabrics from Korea and exporting them. And this is where Mina Bazaar and everything grew from. That's why everyone ended up settling here, so they could go take their afternoon naps.
Wow. So this is where all the billionaires are. Hang on, I want some of this to rub off on me. Billionaire status coming soon.
I think they've all abandoned their residences and moved on to Emirates Hills. So.
Oh man. Well, goals. Hashtag goals. Oh, we just crossed the road like that? Everybody stops?
Yeah, isn't that how you do it in Dubai?
That is the way, guys. Right here, you just walk on the road.
I used to do that in the States, and people used to yell at me. I was like, oh, they have to stop, right? It's like a lot more expensive for the blood money, so I just walk, you know.
See, that's the thing. That's how you've integrated into the culture and the community over here.
Yeah, it's home for me. I mean, yeah, I always say like the worst thing to ever happen to me would be to be deported from here. Like that's my worst nightmare.
Oh my, well, at least it's good you say that, because I don't think that has ever happened. Like I've never heard of any of people being told just get out for no reason at all.
No, not for no reason, but like I think one of my it's not about being a good person or following the law. Like my moral compass is like, does it fit in Dubai's rules? If it doesn't, I'm not doing it. Like
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm also one of those weird people, like, you know, when people complain about Dubai, I get really angry. You know what? Leave. There are a lot of like worse places, I think even in the downturn, and there's some things which, you know, bother me about this city, this country. But I think overall, we're very fortunate. It's one of the better places to live, and I find that, I feel like that's more and more each year.
So I guess the other thing that I wanted to ask is that there are much more opportunities now back in India than there was maybe in the past, and I know that a lot of people actually are moving back to India.
Yeah.
Is that kind of something that is, I don't want to use the word rampant, but are a lot of people considering that now, or has this become home and they're not going to leave no matter what?
I think people will always move to where the opportunity is, you know. I actually thought of that a few years ago, and I spent probably about 6 months in India working, but I could never integrate. Like I feel more integrated here. Like if I only hear Hindi, it's weird for me. If I only see Indian people, it's weird for me. I love the fact that there's like multiple cultures, multiple languages, and I just felt more comfortable here. And I think opportunity, yeah, sure, maybe you get a 10%, 20% gain if you move to one city or another, but it's what you make of it. So I think if you settle down, you start thinking this as your home. Like my dad invested money in property here, and it's paid off for him. I think wherever you are, you decide, and then you make the best.
So do you know what the word Dubai means? Did you ever like think about that?
I'm gonna say it means water, but I don't think so. I have no clue.
So I understand that Dubai, I don't know, there's like a lot of legends, urban legends I guess. A lot of people say that Dubai means two beauty. And what they meant by that is Bar Dubai over here and Bar Deira on the other side. So a lot of people say that. I've heard some people say that the British used to say the Bay, and then this became the Bay. From the Bay, the creek.
I'm working on a project for the government based on the creek, and that's like kind of been like amazing because it's like I know the significance of this to Dubai's history, and it's good to see them investing in it. And I'm glad that they're maintaining this because it is identity, I think.
Oh yeah,
it should continue.
Absolutely, and again, the significance of this, right? Because a lot of the very large businessmen here were actually involved in a lot of trade to India.
I think a lot of the growth of Dubai as like a commercial hub has grown from here. I don't think there was a creek we would have in Emirates. So I don't think people think all the way through, but this is a massive impact on the city.
But I think it's amazing, you know, there is no other country in the world where you actually use sometimes 3, 4, 5 languages every single day, and one of them is Hindi. I mean, one of them is for sure Hindi every single day,
definitely.
Right?
Like, I think you can get away with just knowing English in the air. You definitely, I mean, you could probably even get away with just knowing Hindi here, and that's, you can't even get away with that in Bombay. Like, you just can't. So that's an interesting thing about this place.
True story. A lot of our food is influenced by India. A lot of the words that we use are influenced by India.
Yeah, the best argument is where did biryani come from? Like, you should not start those arguments because there's no right answer. I mean, there is a right answer, but you can never agree on it.
That's true. That's absolutely true. My grandfather was actually one of the people that sold goods to India. And my grandfather actually lived in India on 2 different occasions. This was when he was there the first time. So this is in 1918.
Oh wow, that's pre-partition.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So my father actually went to high school in Mumbai. They're part of like the kind of big community of Emiratis that lived in India for quite some time.
You probably lived longer in India than I have.
I don't know.
I've lived in India for less than 6 months.
Oh, is that right?
Like,
oh, yeah.
I've never lived there. I've only been there for visits. So.
Oh, my grandfather probably spent, I mean, no less than 15 years there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
My father spent about, I'd say, 5 or 6 years there.
His Hindi is probably much better than
Oh, my father speaks like, yeah, perfect Hindi. And I guess that's where we got it from, because we watched a lot of Indian movies. We knew a lot about India. You know, obviously the food.
I think the attitudes towards Indians have changed from Emiratis.
I definitely think that, you know, the country has made a massive development and evolution from an education standpoint. There's definitely been a growth in understanding cultures. Maybe we weren't there not so long ago.
Yeah.
You know, and I dare say that maybe a lot of people still have not developed that side of their kind of intellect and their understanding for other cultures and things like that. But certainly a lot of the younger generation, absolutely. I think a lot of people look at every community that lives in Dubai and in the UAE and says, hey, this is our community, regardless of where you're from, you know, and we can only get better and better at living next to each other if we know each other better. And I think that's what's happening.
Integration earlier, like I almost think it was like a two-way street. We've never integrated, but I don't think we've been adopted as much as we've probably seen in the past few years. So that's probably encouraging things on both sides. I think compared to other countries, like people used to come, like if you look at someone from Europe, they come here for maybe 5, 10 years max. We've been here for generations. Most people have been here for 1, 2, maybe 3 generations. So when the crash hit, it wasn't like, okay, let's leave for better pastures. It was more like, okay, this is our country. What can we do? Maybe how can we like take it to the next level? So they kind of doubled down, and I feel like I've seen a change since then. Like more things, more tolerance, more openness. So I'd like to ask Sheikh Mohammed that.
Today, the Indian community is, they say about 30% or 35% of the entire population. That's a very large population. When I look historically, I think it's more than doubled every decade since the 1950s, which is, you know, that's a pretty large community. And the reality is that, you know, the Indian community helped build everything that we have over here. You know, this is as much yours as it is ours, as it is every community that lives over here, and I think we recognize that. And I think the UAE has been really great also at allowing the Indian community to practice being the Indian community in a different country, whereas you might not see that in a lot of places. I mean, you mentioned earlier about the temples and the Gurdwara, and I've certainly been to a lot of events. I mean, I've been to Navratri events,
Yeah.
I've been to Diwali events.
Yeah, I remember I was celebrating Diwali not far from here. We were just below my building in the parking lot area. Illegal fireworks, of course.
Yeah.
My dad and I were burning them, and then these two cops pulled up, and my dad's like, oh God, what have we done? This is what my daughter is getting me in trouble. And they just came, hung out, had some sweets, and like, we're great, you know? Like,